It's Chillmonger. It's Sully Streams. If you haven't heard of him, his link is in the description. You can check out his YouTube channel as well. Congrats on 3K.
Thank you, dude. Appreciate it.
We are here to talk about the MCU reboot in a more formal matter. I've done a live stream where we kind of chit chatted about it, but specifically just the reboot, the thought process of it. It's been rumored, it's been thrown around. If like, can we have some toast? And we know those people who throw out rumors and those credible, they're pretty credible leakers. They've been introducing this thought. The question of soft reboot or hard reboot is where we'll begin. Which of the two would you prefer if they did a reboot?
Yeah, it's I mean, this is definitely a polarizing topic. Like when you invited me on to talk about this specific question, I have my notes off to the side here and I had a whole category of like why they should do any kind of reboot, why they shouldn't do any kind of reboot. All my notes are pretty much in the why they should not category.
Ooh,
So I might be pretty biased or one-sided in this. Um Before I kind of get into the reasons, I was thinking soft reboot. So thinking about now just you saying hard reboot or soft reboot, I feel like I'd be a little hypocritical if I said if they anything other than if they were going to do this, it would have to be a hard reboot. I think myself.
same.
I know that looking at what DC is going through right now, I've definitely been a little outspoken about how I don't really love that some characters are staying, some characters are not as it comes to which actors are portraying them. I think really if you want to, build something new, you have to start completely fresh from the ground up.
And keeping
Um
Amanda Waller and Peacemaker are not worth all the kerfuffle.
yeah, I just think so you and me and a lot of other people that have opinions on this topic are kind of in the minority in the sense that we are not the casual audience, like
Right.
we love this stuff. And
So
I
go check
think
out Sully Streams' channel and look at all the movie reviews and just the way that he lives his life. Yes, we're not
it
casuals.
my real responsibilities in life take a back seat when it comes to movies and superhero stuff and whatnot, but I just feel like that was the massive downfall with movies like Shazam 2, The Flash, say what you will about those films, but I really think one of the driving reasons that they didn't do well at the box office is because we knew from the start they were going to go undergo some kind of a reboot, and
So there's
that's just
no
going to
urgency to watch it. There's no attachment. I agree with
none at
those
all.
points. I just don't think we disagree on how much money it really cost. Because I watched the James Gunn video on YouTube where he announces, "Hey, Chapter One, Gods and Monsters." It only has 2 million views. I don't think 2 million viewers, if every single one of them watched the video to completion, I don't think 2 million people is enough to affect the box office that much to where it killed Shazam and Flash. It would have added a little bit more money for sure. So that's the
Sure.
disagreement there.
Yeah, I just think that more casual moviegoers, if they know that the story isn't leading to some kind of overarching goal, if we know that we're kind of saying like, "Hey, this is the last few misfit toys until we start over again," they're not going to connect to anything larger. Then I feel like people are going to say like, "Why should I bother being invested in this?" Like that's why we got into the MCU, I think, or why it was so successful in the first place. I think that's a reason too that just looking at reboots in general with the MCU that I don't want it is I think that it was never really about one character to begin with. Like obviously there are a few characters when you look at Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, they were kind of at the center of this whole Infinity Saga that kind of held it all together, and we got their origin stories, saw where they were going, and then it was the three of them with that amazing shot kind of like
Yeah.
fighting Thanos towards the end and Endgame and everything. But I don't see these characters, or at least the way they've positioned them right now, I don't see these characters as like a James Bond or a Batman where you just want to see what this one guy's up to on his own and a new person takes over the role every few years. Like it's always like the sum of its parts with the MCU. You want to see where it's leading to a big overarching story, and I feel like if they reboot it, it's gonna be hard for it to feel like we're not just doing the same thing over again in that regard. But I just think it's too soon when it comes to a reboot. I think I felt the same way. I put out a very passionate video about how I was mad about the reboot of the Harry Potter franchise that they're doing right now. Go to a different time period. Go to a different school. Do something new. God damn. Where it just feels like I was in the theater almost yesterday watching the last part of the franchise conclude.
So the
You know,
turnaround is too soon.
I think that is a huge factor for me personally. Like, I want to have like kids of my own at this point, being like, oh yeah, when I was a kid, this was awesome. Like now it's starting over again. I get to experience it again through their eyes. Like, oh, this whole thing's
So
unfolding.
because you don't have your kids yet, that's the problem. Like if you were a
Yeah.
58-year-old, you'd be like, yes, perfect time for a reboot. I can spend some time with the grandkids. We'll go to the movies every single time there's see because it's coming. You're on the verge of saying something. I see your mouth open. Like,
No,
so I'll hold off
I
my points.
no. I just one last thing to say about that is I think I want to be excited the way like every middle-aged guy was excited when Top Gun Maverick came out. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like that Top Gun was like a formative part of, the dad generation right now. And seeing that come out again, they're like, "Holy crap, like I got to get to the theater with my kid and like experience this again." Like that's kind of the feeling I'd be looking forward to and when I would want a reboot. Like I don't know if I don't know if I'm ready personally after spending so much time and investment in these characters over the last decade.
You
Like I don't
deserve
know if I'm
more.
ready. I don't know if I'm ready to see anyone other than Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man or Chris Evans as Captain America, even though I know we do have a new Captain America and I love Anthony Mackie, but still.
The way things are going, one day there will be a reboot, and it will go from let's just say they reboot in 2033. Okay, 10 years from now, I think you'd be okay with that if they go that long.
I
Okay,
think so.
okay,
Well, yeah.
2043.
Yeah, yeah.
So final movie, Avengers Endgame for real this time, end to end game, and then it's 2044, and we know that they're gonna have like a whole new cast of Black Panther, Captain Marvel, Doctor Strange, Spider Man. Even though we just saw them in Super Endgame in 2043, so
Right.
you're not gonna avoid that emotional. It's hard to see
Yeah.
someone else. It's just an inevitable emotion, and we can't. So it's coming. Is all I'm
Yeah.
saying. It's coming.
So, okay, so I'll throw it to you then where full hard reboot for the MCU coming up. Um, do you want them to do the way that they've done it already, or do you want a completely new direction where like the three heroes that are the core this is all centered around is there's no Captain America, Thor, Iron Man even involved?
Absolutely not. That
Yeah,
you reboot because you wanna do an Iron
right.
Man, and this time,
You want to
you're
bring
not
back
gonna
these
hire
lost characters.
yeah, the characters right now, if they could afford Robert Downey and Chris Evans, then they would pay Robert Downey and Chris Evans. The problem is they got him way early when they never anticipated they'd still be going, right? And they felt like, "Oh, we got these long-term contracts with these guys." Well, they were long-term back in '08, right? But now you're like, "Shoot, now if we need to renegotiate, we're gonna have to back up the Brinks truck, and we're gonna have to bring a
Yes.
percentage of the film to Robert Downey." Iron Man would still be alive today if in 2008, when Downey was down on his luck. I'm not going to bash on him anymore because he's recovered
Hmm.
and he's doing amazing stuff. If they would have said, "Hey, listen, yo, you're going to be Iron Man for 10 movies and 6 TV appearances," he would be like, "Okay, shoot, I'll take that," and
Yeah.
he would have done it, and we would have been only on movie 7 right now because
Right.
he hasn't been in everything. 3 Iron Mans, 4 Avengers. That would be
Yeah.
7,
Yeah.
and a Civil War and Homecoming. Oh shit,
Right, right.
he might
Yeah,
have already
he is.
been in
Yeah,
10.
I was gonna say he might need to crank those numbers up a little bit.
So we'd have to find these super long agreed, and you can only do these super long egregious contracts with newbies who don't really have options. They're not very big names, and there are plenty of 30-year-old actors who are relatively in shape who can play your superheroes and will sign that contract because they know, okay, as soon as I do this Marvel movie, yeah, they might only be paying me $1 million per movie. Remember Amber Heard, how she said in her trial that she got paid $1 million for the first, it was 15 or 1.5 in the second, and yeah, so the second movie increased by only 50%. They could do
Yeah,
that also with these Marvel actors. You'll only increase 50%. They'll just take it because they're dirt poor right now, and they know in the future, because of the recognition that the movies would provide them, they could do a higher pay rate for other films because everyone wants to have me. I'm the guy who plays that superhero. The
right,
reboot the reboot would keep the characters. So, of course, just to bring it back to your question, of course, you would keep Iron Man, Cap, and Thor in addition to Wolverine, which I hope that would make it a little bit different. The Spider-Man issue might still be a Sony thing, um, unless Sony gets bought by Apple or one of those behind the
Right.
scenes things, those rumors.
Yeah.
It would be the same. It wouldn't be the same universe. We'd have the same top guys. A Black Panther who hopefully the actor doesn't die and they don't make an impulse reaction where they execute the character. That was
Yeah.
terrible. If they have those kind of five hit stars from the regular MCU along with Fantastic Four, maybe they figure out the Hulk thing, which they say they figured out. It would be a different universe just like that. We would have enough different.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I am one of those guys that craves getting in a more involved Hulk, or like a Hulk the way that I grew up knowing him involved. I really think like
So who could you lose? Hulk you can lose because you can get rid of the current version we have. Who else can you lose? Because
from the current roster.
yeah, on the current roster, like you wouldn't mind getting rid of, I don't know, Captain Marvel. No one's really too attached to Hawkeye. I don't think. Maybe you are. Like there's
No,
certain
I
guys.
think that's probably, you haven't said anyone yet that I'm like, no, 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 we got to keep them.
So then we'll ask, who would you keep? Like who is the one that's making you go, damn, do I really want to cut that relationship with Tom Holland? Who is it?
Um, well, I'll say this. This isn't like, I don't know if this is my 100% pick. I will say that I've said for a while now, and I think it's still true today. I've always said that I think Hiddleston is the best actor the MCU has at their disposal, like the best actual actor, like not the biggest star, anything like that. I think he's like the most talented dude the MCU has right now. Like you watch any appearance he has as Loki, like everyone else, like it could seem like they're cashing a paycheck. He's like doing Shakespeare out there. Like I think he is like awesome. Um, so I that's someone that like I don't know. It's like you also can't keep him if you don't keep Hemsworth. So it's like since they have such a long history together. But the guy right now, or any person right now involved in the MCU that I'd be like, you need to keep. Um, I think it would probably
See?
be beneficial for them to balance everything around like Cumberbatch with Doctor Strange, probably. Um,
And we're
I
talking
think
about not even the top 5 hero in Doctor Strange. And we're talking about a TV show hero in Loki, a villain.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, it's like Holland's not my favorite Spider-Man, but I think he's the best of both worlds, where I think he's a pretty good Spider-Man and a pretty good Peter Parker. So I mean, and rumors have just been going around so long, right? That like he wants to quit act. One thing will say he wants to quit acting. The next day it'll say he's signing on to like a secret six-picture deal, right? So who knows what the truth is there? I do think Spider-Man as a character, Tom Holland as an actor, they've probably put themselves in a very advantageous position where the character and the actor combination is like a pretty big box office draw
Clearly,
at this
yeah.
at this point. So I think keeping him around is probably a good idea.
That's a big
Um,
loss. He could be the only one who retains his memory during the soft reboot, and I think
right.
that would make a lot of people happy because there's a reason I started with him. I think he's the one that we love the most and like the hardest to lose, as opposed to everyone else. We just find another actor, put him in a costume. Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, I think another reason for that too is like when we look back, and I can't remember for certain how old Toby Maguire was when he first took the role of Peter Parker, but I know that Andrew Garfield definitely was not in high school when he took the role of Peter Parker. So I think it's a unique situation too, where we have this guy that we think is really good as both versions of the character, and he was super young when they got him. So I think it's hard not to like see him as like a prospect on a sports team, right? Where you're like, how did we get this guy when he was like 18 years old out of high school, and we can watch him become this like awesome version of the character over the next like 15 years. So I think his age and when they got him specifically makes him like a super important part of the future.
Got it. And you're more. It sounds like you're more attached to Marvel Cinematic Universe, the storytelling of the entirety of everything being united, more so than a single character.
I'd say that's the draw overall, in the sense of like what had my butt in a seat opening day for like 23 movies leading up to Endgame and Infinity War. I remember like distinctly being out to dinner with like friends and whatnot before Infinity War and Endgame coming out and like having discussions about like, oh my God, this Infinity Stone is here. Thanos is going to do this. Like, you don't really have those conversations about other type of properties.
Because the
Um,
people writing WandaVision didn't know what was coming in Multiverse of Madness. The guys
right,
doing Ms. Marvel, I saw them in an interview say, "Yeah, we were directing Ms. Marvel, but every time we asked Feige, he said, 'Don't worry, we'll only tell you if it matters.'" How did creators of the show not know where this character is going? If they did, maybe they might do something where the character does a superpower, which can't really get right. But when you watch the movie, then in their next appearance, they get it right. Imagine if we
right,
had like building that way, but we don't have the attachment. You could tell your friends about Infinity Stones and who's this other character that's coming in and what his role is. Read this comic because I bet you they're going to say this line. They're going to refer to Nebula and the Infinity Gauntlet because it was in a comic, and then it ends up happening in a movie. You tell your friends that, and I don't think that's happening now with every. Yeah, I won't go into casting. I'm not discussing that. I'm not even going to say what I don't want to get into because it's a whole other can of worms. You can imagine, but the attachment is gone, and the conversation with our friends is hurting. It's the casuals, the people that I used to talk to, the same way. They don't reciprocate to what's going on with Marvel. It's kind of like this thing that ended during Endgame. Maybe the Spider-Man movie will generate interest. Currently, right now, no one's talking about Captain Marvel 2. Like, thankfully, the NFL is on, and they're gonna play
yes,
the commercials during that, and you're gonna see Brie Larson on a Nissan, and Brie Larson shooting photon blasts, and you're gonna maybe generate some interest to this movie. But it was a terrible title, The Marvels.
yeah,
It's it's got nothing to do with anything. I don't think Secret Invasion is really gonna factor into there, but Nick Fury's part of the show.
right,
The lack of attachment is hurting. With a reboot, we could get that. We could say from the beginning, from the inception, people can kind of format what the first saga or phase will be, who's going to meet who, where, and they kind of have more on their roster at their disposability. It is. We should be excited for that because while we do love the MCU and we have our hearts are there, if losing the MCU means the second cinematic universe will be what we would have always wanted, I'll take it. It's like a trade in sports. No one wanted to see their favorite player, DeMar DeRozan, leave the Raptors, but in comes Kawhi. We get a championship. I don't know. It's hard for me to hate that decision.
yeah. Yeah, and I will say, in agreement with you here. I think I'd really have to think back and think if there's another example of this, but as of right now, like in my life, I think this is the only time I haven't purchased like release day tickets to a Marvel movie, and that's happening right now with the Marvels. I don't have tickets right now. Um, there's just like you said, there's kind of a little bit of a lack of excitement around it, not too much of an attachment around these characters.
Don't worry,
Um,
Thunderbolts is coming.
yeah, hey, I mean, I think that like I decently liked the roster for that one, but there was
Okay.
something like the only problem is like I think like 99% of the characters are like their superpower is just that they're super strong. Like I think that's it. There's like that's pretty much the only power among all of them except Ghost, who they scrapped, I think. I think
Oh,
Ghost
she's
isn't
not
even
even
in
in
it
it
anymore.
anymore.
I think they
Wow.
took her out. But
You were saying you
yeah,
didn't buy a ticket for the first time.
yeah, and I think it's weird because it's almost like a lack of attachment mixed with, I'll go back to the saying, distance makes the heart grow fonder. Because I do think that like I just don't know if I'm a fan of like the TV show format. I almost like when it comes to what Disney's done with Star Wars and Marvel, um, in the scope of the TV world. I really think Loki's been the only one out of both of those franchise that's been like, I'm like, that was a great story. That needed to be told. Like that was just really good television to be watching on my couch. Um, it almost feels like there's too much to keep up with right now. And I'm almost like realizing that even if back in the day during phases 1 through 3, the wait between movies was killing me and like I always wanted more, I think that that was actually a good thing.
Yes.
And I don't really love the way it's trending right now with all the TV shows.
And the wait for streaming problem which exists. Like we can always wait. If there was an urgency and if like, Black Panther appears here, Infinity War, he's in there just 3 months later, you kind of have to watch one to get the other. Captain Marvel made a billion point one, probably because she was going to show up in Endgame, as well as, the MC was generally high, but that the urgency is gone. They're
Yep.
losing that, and the reboot or not, they're making mistakes in that realm. I've been chill. If you want to watch Sully complain about the Harry Potter franchise, that video is right up on the screen right now. Thumbs us
Yeah.
up and check us all out.